Welcome back to the TSV Sports Show. I am your host, Jasper Lindsay. Everyone's here today. We are joined by Alvin Ncaa, Armin Archignani, Steven Risotto, Marco Milani. Great show today. We're talking the NFL, we're talking baseball, and we're talking the NBA playoffs. Before we can get into all that, we need to hit the ice with skating on thin ice with Marco Milani. Take it away.
Thanks, Jasper. So the Sharks season officially ended last night with a 6-0 shutout loss to the Vegas Golden Knights. So with that, the season is over. They finished 21-28. And now we move on to the end of the offseason. So yeah, I don't know how to feel. This is going to be a long offseason for us, but now we're just going to have to battle with LA for that first overall pick. Hopefully we can get somebody good out of that, but I'm not sure. But for the playoffs, let's see who we have in the playoffs in the next couple weeks. But brackets will be starting, by the way, so make sure to go to NHL.com and pick your brackets. So for the North Division, we have Toronto, Edmonton, Winnipeg, and Montreal. For the East, we have Pittsburgh, Washington, Boston, and the New York Islanders. Jasper's team. He will be watching some playoff hockey this year. For the West, we have Vegas, Colorado, Minnesota, and St. Louis. And finally, for the Central, we have Carolina, Tampa Bay, Florida, and Nashville. My picks for the Stanley Cup for each division, I'm going to go my final four: Toronto, Washington, Colorado, and Carolina. So that is the Stanley Cup playoffs. Now let's go back to the Sharks. So what's next? Obviously the offseason. But there are probably going to be some decisions around, I'd hope there's some decisions around general manager Doug Wilson. I don't know if he might be, to use the term skating, he might actually be skating on thin ice, because he might be on the hot seat considering how bad the season was. But we'll see what happens come this off season. But the Sharks also made some moves yesterday before the game against the Vegas Golden Knights. They re-signed Alexander Barabanov, the guy they acquired in the Ncaa trade, to a 1-year deal. They also signed 2 prospects. Adam Raska, the 2020, I believe he was a 6th-round defenseman from the Czech Republic. He played in the IIHF Worlds this year and put up 1 assist in total. And we also signed Finn Santeri Hataka. They will both have a chance to make the roster next year. Those are entry-level deals. Moving on to some other hockey news. In the TSN actually released the Team Canada roster, and they also released the USA roster for today. In total, for Team Canada and Team USA, 3 Sharks have been included. Kevin Labanc for Team America, Mario Ferraro for I said Kevin Labanc for Team Canada. I apologize. It's Team USA for Kevin Labanc. Mario Ferraro for Team Canada, Sasha Shimlevsky for Team USA, among others. So some exciting stuff. And that is skating on thin ice, hoping for some good playoff hockey, and it's going to be a long offseason for Sharks fans.
Sorry to hear that for all the Sharks fans out there. But as Marco alluded to, I will be watching playoff hockey. I got to figure out when it's on TV. As I said, very new to this, but hopefully Tom Wilson knocks someone out, because that's what
let me give some quick information on that. It most likely NHL playoffs will be on the networks of NBC. So NBC, USA, NBC Sports Network, and of course, you can watch it on the NBC Sports app.
Perfect. All right, switching over from the ice to the hardwood. The Warriors have picked up back-to-back huge wins against the Jazz and the Suns. Curry was carrying this team for a little bit, but Andrew Wiggins finally gave him some help against the Suns, putting up 38. This team, they're pretty much locked into that 8 spot, barring they lose both these games coming up against the Pelicans and Memphis. That Memphis game is going to be huge in determining whether or not they play. But I mean, hey, if the Lakers keep struggling the way they are, it does look like they're going to meet the Warriors in round one. And guys, I think the way this Warriors team is playing, they can beat the Lakers in that play-in game. I don't know. Alvin, what are your thoughts?
So in this season, the Lakers and Warriors has matched up 3 times. Warriors only win the first matchup. It was a close win, but in the second and third time, the Warriors had big loss. If the Warriors want to win on the offensive end, Curry have to on fire, definitely drop over 30. Wiggins have to be on fire as well, drop over 25. And the most important, Draymond Green play double-double. He have to play double-double in this game. On the bench, I hope JTA and Jordan Poole can play like Tuesday with Suns. On defensive end, I think since we don't have Wiseman in the playoff, so I think Bazemore, Looney, Green, Wiggins, everybody have to work together to grab rebounds in the paint and on the defensive end. And then on the offensive end, I hope they can play, make extra pass, find a best shooter. I know the Lakers will play triple team on guarding Curry. So definitely other guys have to step up. Overall, I think the Lakers will win. Even I don't know if LeBron can still be playing in next week. No matter LeBron is playing, AD is on fire. KCP is good. Marquise Morris is on fire. Andrew Drummond can give an average 11 rebounds per game. Also, Montrezl Harrell, he's good. He's experienced in the playoff. So a lot of Lakers guy have experience in the playoff. If the Warriors want to win, they have to work together, play good defense, make good execution. Just don't be hesitate to attack the rim. Then they can win this game.
Yeah, I mean, I think if the Lakers are without LeBron, this is easier the Warriors game. I don't think KCP and Dennis Schroeder are necessarily the difference makers in a one-game play-in. And I think Andre Drummond's struggles have been magnified over his time with the Lakers. I mean, it shows in their record. I'm pretty sure they're like 4-5 with him. But the one person that does scare me is Montrezl Harrell. I think that's a guy who just eats the Warriors up, and especially when they go with a smaller lineup in the second unit. That's a team. Harrell's a guy that can just rebound, put back, take it coast to coast. So I think that's going to be the Warriors' biggest struggle when it comes to taking down the Lakers. It's just their depth on the bench. Armand, Damian Lillard, can he take the Blazers past the Clippers in round one?
Yeah, I think it all depends where everyone stands. I think this is either make or break for the Clippers. I think Portland also, this is make or break for Terry Stotza. And Lillard and McCollum, they could combine for 70 every night. I think in the playoffs, that's where they've really struggled with defense, because in the playoffs, everything gets tighter. The refs start calling a little bit more, and I think, or they start letting them play more. And I think if the Portland needs to have a solid bench for them to beat the Clippers, because the one weakness the Clippers have is that depth. I think Reggie Jackson is a great player off the bench, but they need a little bit more from the bench. And losing Lou Will and Montrezl Harrell was tough for the Clippers, I think. So if they can stop Paul George and hold Kawhi to probably 25 points, I think they can make an upset, but all depends on the Portland backcourt.
Yeah, and do you think Jusuf Nurkic's lack of defensive play? I mean, he's an offensive monster, but his play is pretty lacking on the defensive side. Do you think he's out in Portland if they can't get it done?
Yeah, I think we're going to see a whole lineup rejuvenation in the offseason. The thing with Portland's always been is their defense. They've never had one solid defensive player on the perimeter. I think they have that in Robert Covington now, but he can't play all 5 positions. So
Yeah.
The way this Portland team needs to assess their playoff is just play on the defensive end, and they'll probably win a couple games.
Absolutely. And then another team I'm looking forward to watching in the playoffs on the west side of the bracket, the Dallas Mavericks. I mean, Luka's shown that he's a monster in the playoffs, and they finally have Porzingis, and he's healthy, but do you think they can make a deep playoff run this year, or is this a team that just a lot of people are underestimating? I know they're not necessarily the Lakers or the Clippers, but I think they have a pretty good shot at making a deep playoff run if they can catch fire.
Yeah, this is a young and up and coming team. I think last year I was sold on them when I saw what they did to the Clippers. They gave them a run for their money. I think KP, if he stays healthy, that duo will be elite in the next couple of years. But a guy I'm looking forward to watching is Jalen Brunson, the backup point guard. I'm pretty sold on him. He has that mid-range game. He'll give you the defensive leverage you need as on the bench. And I think if the supporting cast of Luka plays well, like Tim Hardaway Jr., Finney Smith, I think those guys will play a big part in the Dallas Mavericks' success in the playoffs.
Absolutely. And rounding out with the NBA, Boston, I mean, it's not looking good. Jaylen Brown's done for the year. Kemba's been through his fair share of struggles. Jason Tatum, I mean, he's a star, but he can't carry this team. Is it over for Brad Stevens in Boston if they can't get anything going?
Yeah, definitely. I think that Jaylen Brown injury gives them an even smaller chance of winning in the playoffs this year. And that's probably the only thing Brad Stevens is leaning on at this point to keeping his job, just injuries. But yeah, Kemba Walker hasn't played as well. He's been injured the last 2 years. So I think, yeah, Jason Tatum's a star in this league, but he can't do it all by himself. And they should have brought in centers when they needed to. I think Tice leaving was tough for them, but yeah, this is make or break for Brad Stevens.
Also, Marcus Smart is out.
Yeah. No, things aren't looking good in Boston, and I'm starting to think Brad Stevens should have taken that $70 million to go to Indiana. Yeah, that does it for the NBA. We'll get back to you guys next week with another, or actually just with our playoff preview because we have the playoffs coming up. But moving over to the Diamond now. Steven, who's the best team in the NL East?
Well, they're all kind of beating up on each other right now, aren't they? Look, I think going into it, we thought it was the Braves, and I'm going to stick to that. I still think it is the Atlanta Braves. I still think they have the best pitching staff. There's a few guys, I guess I'm a little concerned about the pitching, but I still think, there's a guy that's come up now. I'm going to botch his name here. Ncaa. I'll just say his last name, Ncaa. But he's been fantastic for them. Pretty much.
Oscar.
Hey, Oscar, Ncaa. So he's been fantastic. Ian Anderson. I mean, Charlie Morton's getting up there in age. He hasn't been great. But I like what they did bringing in Drew Smiley. Max Fried is finally back after a short DL stint. But I still like this team. I still like their offense. They have superpowers on their team with Acuna, Albies, Freeman, a great core. But not to mention the New York Mets right now, who are playing really, really well, and always go through some weird adversity throughout the season. That Lindor's been struggling. The whole offense has been struggling. They've been really getting it done on the mound, though. And I think their pitching is underrated. I mean, you look at Jacob deGrom, who's on the DL, probably going to miss a few starts with a lat injury. But Taijuan Walker and Marcus Stroman have been fantastic. And then you finish out the rotation with a guy like David Peterson, who nobody really knows. Maybe they add an arm at the deadline, but, the Mets are good. Phillies, I don't even know what to think about the Phillies. They're getting a lot of national attention. Bryce Harper's playing really well, having a fantastic season. Trying to think, JT Realmuto is playing well. He just got re-signed. They have some arms on their team. Honestly, it's going to be fun to watch them beat up on each other. And the Marlins aren't even half bad either. So the Marlins are, Marlins and Nationals as well. This is the most talented league or most talented division in the entire league. So no, it's fun, but I still think the Braves are the best team.
Yeah, and I think my question is, when are we going to see Noah Syndergaard back in a Mets jersey, Steve?
I would assume soon. I think we're going to see him soon. Hey, maybe they don't need to go out on the deadline, and get an arm because they have Noah Syndergaard coming back, and also Carlos Carrasco coming back. So they do have some depth, pitching wise. And who is Thor? Like, we really don't know who Noah Syndergaard is. I mean, I feel like he does get us hyped up with all of the, the look of Noah Syndergaard and the personality that we see on Twitter and the way he's marketed playing in New York. I think he's a whole lot more he's more off the baseball field than on the baseball field. And I hope he proves us wrong, because when he's right, he's a fun guy to watch.
Absolutely. And then the Dodgers have been struggling mightily.
Yeah.
We saw it in Trevor Bauer's interview last weekend. He is pissed off. How do the Dodgers turn it around? Because, I mean, obviously missing Cody Bellinger is a huge part of this, but Mookie Betts is not playing at the level you signed him to play at. Max Muncy, another guy who's struggling. I just don't see this Dodgers team picking it up until Cody Bellinger gets back.
Yeah, he's definitely a catalyst for them. But how to turn it around? I think it's how to turn any good team around. It's start winning. And I know that sounds like really simple and but they won 2 in a row here against the I believe they picked up 2 wins against the Mariners. I think they're playing, but they're 2-0. I think since the Bauer comments, which is pretty interesting. But Bauer's frustration is telling. I think it's telling for a lot of reasons. He signed a win. Bauer does not have a ring. He does not have memorable playoff experiences. I'm sure some of you guys know what I'm talking about. The blood dripping on the mound after he played with his drone before start against the Blue Jays. But no, yeah, like you said, Mookie Betts is not playing well. He's playing fine, but he's not, playing like Mookie Betts. This team, I honestly think there's a few things that need to go right here. I think Gavin Lux is a guy that has all the talent in the world. They've been waiting for him. He's finally getting the opportunity. If he puts it together, and he had a big home run the other night, I think he's the one guy in the lineup that they could kind of rally around. But Justin Turner and Justin Turner's been fantastic. I think we're forgetting about him too. Everybody's pretty much hitting except for Gavin Lux. I think Bellinger coming back is going to be big. You could kind of move Chris Taylor around at that point. Pitching wise, they've been exactly as advertised. They've been great. Bauer's been great. Julio Urias has been great. Kershaw's been great. Buehler's been great. It sucks to lose Dustin May, but they have the depth to do it with, David Price in the bullpen. If you want to, add some of those guys. So this is still the best team in baseball, or at least talent wise. Maybe not right now, but this is still the best team on paper. And they're going to be, it's still going to go through Los Angeles. If you want to, get to the National League pennant, it's still going to have to go through the Dodgers, still going to have to go through Dave Roberts and company.
Absolutely. And then another team that looks great on paper, the Yankees are finally picking up and climbing up the AL East standings. I think it's only a matter of time until they catch Boston. But has Giancarlo Stanton earned his pinstripes? I mean, he is a huge reason for how the Yankees are playing right now. And I mean, even their pitching is starting to pick it up a little bit. Steve, what are you seeing in this team?
Yeah, pitching has always been, even when the Yankees had some nice arms with Sabathia and Tanaka for a short period, Luis Severino, it was still always a question mark because of health. And I think this year it's still a question mark because of health, but I also think it's a question mark because nobody knows what they're going to get, except for Garrett Cole, right? Corey Kluber has actually been okay coming back from injury, but he's a big question mark. Jordan Montgomery finally getting a chance to be a top of rotation. I mean, Domingo Germán has been okay. Jamison Tyone has struggled a little bit. Yankees are always going to build on offense. Okay. They have a ballpark where they could, play to that structure. DJ LeMahieu, Gary Sanchez, these are all offensive forces, even when Gary's not, even when Gary's below the Mendoza line, he's still scary at the plate. Gleyber Torres, Gio Urshela, these are all guys that are going to produce for you. And I think Giancarlo Stanton right now, and Yankee fans are ruthless. I should preface it by saying that Yankees fans are ruthless. When he first came over and he was struggling and he was not on the field, he's going to have a hard time about it. But I think this is a season where he can finally turn it around. He's only 31 years old. Do you believe that? It feels like he's been around forever. Only 31 years old, hitting the cover off the ball. And when I mean hitting the cover off the ball, bullets, like absolute bullets that are going to be on top of StatCast lists forever. But no, he's red hot right now. And I think the big thing with Stanton is health. And health throughout his career has kept him from being possibly down the road one of baseball's most premier sluggers of his generation. Still could get it. Still could become one of the premier. Probably is, but if you want like 600, 500, 600 home runs, I mean, he still has a path to do it. But I think that's what we were looking at before the injuries.
Absolutely. All right, shifting gears, we have another ranking for this week, and it's the top 5 most underperforming players in the league. Steve, I'll kick it out to you first. Who's your number 5?
Yeah, coming in at number 5 is a guy who's new to San Diego. If you look at it on paper, it doesn't look so bad. He's, got great strikeout numbers. He's a guy who right now has the best stuff of his big league career in terms of filth, but he's also walking 6.3 guys per 9, which is a career high, and that is Blake Snell. So Blake Snell's got a 4.19 ERA, not bad, right? But he has not gone deep in the games. I don't think he's gone past 5 1/3 innings or something like that. So just has not been the Blake Snell that we saw last year in game 6, right? Or game 5, sorry. It's just not the same guy. No, it was game 6. It was game 6. I was going to say. But yeah, Blake Snell, you expect him to lead this Padres rotation, and I still expect that of him in the future. But right now, I think you have to rely on Yu Darvish more. I think you have to rely on Joe Musgrove more. And when Dinelson Lamet gets back to full health, I think you have to rely on him more. So Blake Snell's got to earn his stripes in San Diego, and he's not doing it right now.
Absolutely. I mean, who knows? Maybe he's just got a little PTSD after that game 6, and he just can't go past the 5th anymore. But we'll see how that goes. All right, at my number 5, I got Matt Chapman. He's batting .215, struck out 52 times already. Obviously, he's coming off an injury, but I mean, as we previewed, it's supposed to be the Mad Matt show in Oakland if they want to get this done. And obviously, Ramon Laureano's picked up some of the slack for him. But at some point, Matt Chapman has to get hot, especially in those dog days of August when the pitching rotation's scuffling a little bit and they need a little extra oomph at the plate. And yeah, 215, not great for Matty Chap.
Yeah, he's too good of a hitter to be known as a glove first guy. Well, he's always going to be known as a glove first guy, but too good of a hitter to be, producing on pace for what he's on pace to do. My number 4 guy is Jesus Lizardo. And I said, we recorded this earlier, but I would say that it is a cheap shot for me to put him here. But, because he's on the DL, he's on the 10-day DL with an injury. But when he was healthy on the field, he was struggling a lot. He was getting knocked around a lot. Just leaving pitches up in the strike zone from what I've noticed, missing spots over the plate. I think that this guy has a chance to break out this year and next year and the year after and become one of the American League's best pitchers. Oakland has never really had an ace in recent years, right? Who is their last bona fide? Max Scherzer, Jacob deGrom, Lucas Giolito, Clayton Kershaw. Who was that last guy for Oakland? It's impossible to figure out. Barry Zito wasn't even it. I mean, yeah, he won a Cy Young, but it's really hard to find that guy in Oakland, and they just haven't developed one, I guess. But I think he is going to be your guy who's going to be pitching big playoff games, not Mike Fiers or not Sean Manaea or not Chris Bassett. So yeah, Lizardo I think has to get hot, and I think the A's should really start giving him some big innings down the road if he's right.
All right, that's great, Steve. Number 4, Steve, I'm actually going to ask you a question real quick. If you're paying a player $300 million, what kind of stats do you want to see at the plate?
I just want to see some productivity at a high level. I want to see a guy who's a lot above league average offensively, who's hitting homers, who's knocking in a lot of runs, who's drawing walks. I just want to coming through defensively. I think I know where you're going with this, but yeah, that's what I would want to see.
Yeah, well, the Padres paid Manny Machado $300 million a couple of years ago, and he's batting .226, and that is not where he wants to be at, especially since he's supposed to be the guy that the two-headed monster of him and Tatis was what San
Yeah.
Diego advertised last season and even this year. And I mean, so far, obviously 2020, he got cut off. He was putting up pretty good numbers. His first season in San Diego, kind of iffy, but this year he's got to pick it up. I mean, especially if San Diego wants to climb to the top of the NL West, he has got to pick it up. And obviously he does it in the field, but at the plate, they paid him to hit, and he's not doing it.
Yeah.
Bottom line.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure. And I think they're gonna wait for him to hit. He's another cat. I always bring up the word catalyst because him and Tatis, when they go, the Padres go. So that's
Slam Diego just a year
Slam
ago.
Diego for sure. Yeah. My number 2 is gonna be Marcelo Zuna. Or actually, my number 3 is gonna be Marcelo Zuna. With the Braves, they re-signed him to a 4-year, $65 million deal. And he just, I mean, you mentioned 226 for Machado, 204 for Ozuna. It's not looking good for him. If you look at OPS, basically 40% below league average offensively, compared to 70% above league average offensively last year. I mean, it's just gone completely downhill, but it's still early, and I expect this guy to hit. I mean, we didn't expect his glove to be better than his bat. I think we all expected Marcell Ozuna to be a DH, and it was kind of a shock when Atlanta signed him. But again, the Braves have had a kind of a rough go around. They're starting to heat up a little bit. Freddie Freeman, Ronald Acuna. Again, I think that Marcell Ozuna is part of that star power. I mean, we saw what he did last year as a designated hitter. Just led baseball in home runs and RBIs. So I think expect the same production this year, but he's got to get a, I cannot speak right now. He's got to get it going quick. So Marcell Ozuna is my number 3 pick.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great one. My number 3 is Trevor Story. I mean, this is a guy who's he's on the market. It's fair to say that every Rockies player is on the market, Trevor Story included. And both from a franchise and a personal standpoint, his power is like a problem. He is not hitting home runs. He is not putting up unworldly numbers. And I'm not going to say he's part of the Rockies struggles because those go way deeper than just one bat in the lineup. But Trevor Story is a guy who wants to be traded. Yeah, well, there's no one upstairs right now since Broderick's gone, but I digress. Trevor Story is a guy who you want to get as much value from as he can. He's a star in the league. He's not putting up the power numbers he should be. And I mean, for a team like the Phillies, who's definitely in the market for a shortstop, the Rockies want to get the most they can for him. And Trevor Story wants to go to a contender. He wants to win baseball games. And I mean, he's batting 295, great, but we need to see a little more out of Trevor Story if you want to get the value for him and if you want to get him on a contender that needs a good shortstop, or not even just a good shot, who needs a star shortstop.
Oakland. Maybe. My number 2 is Kyle Hendricks of the Chicago Cubs. And look, the Cubs have not pitched at all. They have not really hit at all. And it's not fun to watch because we're so used to in recent years, the Cubs being great, right? They have great talent on their team, and Hendricks is definitely part of that. But he's got a 6.23 ERA in 34 2/3 innings. I mean, usually doesn't walk guys. He's walking guys at a high rate. He's not a big strikeout pitcher as is. So when you're not a big strikeout guy and you're walking guys, it just means that you are going to get hit. You're going to get hit. You're relying a lot on the ball in play, and you're going to get hit. And there's going to be a lot of runners on base when you get hit. So Kyle Hendricks has had that problem. He's also given up some home runs that, I mean, his home run per 9 is 2.9. That's almost 3 home runs per 9. Not used to seeing that. We're used to seeing the ball on the ground. So Kyle Hendricks has to pick it up. And honestly, Hendricks, along with some of the other guys on this Cubs team, Bryant, Baez, Contreras, they're playing for a spot on a different team come August.
Absolutely. Another guy who's similar spot to Trevor Story. You got to pick it up if you want to get some value. My number 2 is Lucas Giolito. He is quietly having a pretty bummer of a season. I mean, if we're being honest, 4.54 ERA. I mean, this is a guy who's in the Cy Young conversation every year. He has a sub 500 record. Now, part of that could be due to the White Sox offensive struggles, but I think it also is part in that pitching staff needs to be the leader on that team for now until, I mean, Eloy Jimenez and Luis Robert figure out how to get healthy. And I mean, this is a guy I expected at the beginning of the season to be a perennial Cy Young contender, and it's just not working out for him right now.
All right, my number one guy. We talked about the Yankees offense. Let's talk about it some more because Gleyber Torres needs to heat up. Okay, Gleyber Torres. I love Gleyber Torres' game. I think he's in the wrong position at shortstop. He should be a second baseman. But this guy gets overlooked so much when we talk about infielders, especially shortstops. His bat is just too good to be hitting like this. He's got 1 home run and 124 at bats. That is not good. He's knocked in 10, hitting 234, 20% below league average, according to OPS, with a 6.25. Look, I think the thing with Gleyber is his power plays to all fields. And I think Yankee Stadium is the perfect ballpark where he could go line to line with no problem, uses the right field corner when he's on. So, yeah, I do expect more from Gleyber Torres with the bat. I would like to see him. I mean, if he's not hitting, if this is what he's going to be down the line, look, he's still 24. If this is what he's going to be down the line, then that would be a major disappointment because I think there's still a lot more talent to be unlocked.
Absolutely. I mean, he's a guy who we should be talking about right now as the best shortstop in baseball, and there's no excuse for it. All right, my number one, Luis Castillo. It's no secret that the Reds have regressed. I thought they were going to be awesome early on. I was wrong. And their pitching is a huge part of it. I mean, Sonny Gray and Castillo both struggling mightily to open up the season. Wade Miley cannot be the ace of your staff, plain and simple. I mean, he's a number 3 guy at best. And I think even Luis Castillo, he just looks out of shape on the mound. Like, this is a guy who a couple of years ago looked 20, and now he looks like he's 34. I don't know what's going on here. He looks out of shape. And if the Reds want to turn it around, their starting pitching needs to pick it up.
Agreed. Yeah, Castillo is a guy, I've watched a few of his outings, and he usually has that really nice slider that could contend for one of the best pitches in baseball. It's still there, but he's not getting to it. He's not getting the counts where he could throw it because his fastball just used to have good 2-seam action. It's just flat right now. So hope to see him pick it up a little bit.
Absolutely. And Marco, I believe you have some honorable mentions.
I have one honorable mention, and that is, I know we are attacking the A's a lot, but I'm just going to continue on that. And it's Elvis Andrus. Elvis Andrus, I mean, you trade one of your best hitting assets for Elvis Andrus. You trade Chris Davis, who, like I said, amazing hitter, amazing field player. And you trade for Elvis Andrus, who's very underwhelming in 121 at bats, only batting a 174. Why? Why did you trade your best hitter for some guy who really isn't doing anything? So, yeah, Elvis Andrus, what are you doing, dude? You got to pick it up. You got to make this deal worth it.
That's why I think the A's could be in play for one of these big shortstops coming up. I don't know how they'd pay him. I mean, it was just an abysmal attempt at retaining Marcus Semien. So if that's any indication to how they're going to work the shortstops next offseason, I don't see them getting in. I don't see them getting any of them. If they're going to play the Marcus Semien game, they're not going to get any of them because what they tried to do with Marcus Semien was pathetic. And honestly, I think they need to upgrade at that position. So they need to kind of open their pocketbooks for this one.
Oh, and I think they will. But I think I just got to say I find it hilarious that we are kind of bashing 3 players on the best team in baseball right now. Like, props to the A's for finding a way to get it done despite lack of their star players, But I will defend the A's real quick. Chris Davis was by no means an asset in the field. I mean, he was a DH for a reason. Great hitter, as you said, Marco, and I think he's going to really enjoy playing in that offensive park in Texas. But Elvis Andrus has been able to play well in the field, but he's a guy who was built on speed. And we all seen it, every player in the MLB, once that speed goes, their ability to get on base goes. So
also, who are the other options that they could have had other than Andrus? Were there any other shortstops they could have gotten other than him? Was he like the only guy?
Didi.
Yes, Sardidi, as Matt Vasgersian would say.
Yeah,
would've
but
been
as we
great.
say, the A's don't like to open their pocketbooks. All right, wrapping up baseball, moving over to football. Marco, we got some big news for your team. The boat is coming to Green Bay. Blake Bortles will be the starting quarterback for Green Bay come opening day. How does that sound, Marco?
All right. So I really don't know how to feel about this. Obviously, we know Aaron's frustrated. And actually, shout out to YouTube's own Cheesehead TV. I don't know if you guys have heard of them. They are a huge Packers site and a Packers YouTube, have a big following there. But they actually made me feel a lot better about this signing. This is Aaron Nagler, the guy who headlines Cheesehead TV, one of the co-founders. He mentioned this is like more of a high upside thing because if Aaron does sit out, we have Bortles who can start and give Jordan Love maybe a little bit more time to develop before they thrust him into a starting role. But the thing is, you have somebody who might honestly be a downgrade from Aaron starting on your roster. I mean, if you kind of look at it, Bortles isn't as mobile as Aaron has learned to be. I don't know about his decision making, and I also don't know what weapons he had around him. Obviously, with the Rams, he had Cooper Kupp, he had Robert Woods, he had Van Jefferson, guys like that. But I don't know who is actually going to be starting for the weapons for the Green Bay Packers, other than Devontae Adams and Allen Lazard, and a battle for a tight end position. Who knows what that's going to turn out to be? But yeah, I just don't know what to feel about this. But that's just some points that I have, at least.
Yeah, and I think plain and simple, there's no way to really compare Blake Bortles to Aaron Rodgers, despite them having the same record in the playoffs. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is the most valuable player in the league. Blake Bortles is some guy who makes a couple cool jokes on Barstool every now and then and is Big Cat's favorite player. Like, that's pretty much his only claim to fame here. But yeah, I mean, I think the Packers are kind of in damage control when it comes to Rodgers. I honestly think there's a 50-50 chance he's on the Packers come opening week. Armand, what are your thoughts on the situation?
Yeah, I think the Packers might have done the best possible thing other than maybe if Aaron Rodgers goes. I think Blake Bortles is the best of the pack, if that makes sense. I think in the quarterback room and free agency isn't that great. I think if Rodgers leaves, you can get that upside, like Marco said, with Bortles. He's been to the playoffs before, obviously, but I mean, that defense in Jacksonville was the vocal point of that squad. But yeah, I think what do you do with Jordan Love? I mean, there hasn't been really any opportunity for him to play, so maybe we'll see in camp what happens. We will be on the Aaron Rodgers watch list, I think. So yeah, we'll see what happens with Bortles and company.
Marco, I have one more question for you, though. Do you think the signing of Blake Bortles is a sign that the Green Bay front office doesn't necessarily trust Jordan Love with this team?
I don't think so at all. I think this is a part of GM Brian Gutekunst's narrative, because he said he wanted to bring in some bodies for camp at least. Bortles is probably going to be a camp body, no doubt about it. But they are also, by the way, going to bring in former quarterbacks Chad Kelly and Kurt
Kelly.
Yep, Swag Kelly and Ben Kurt to rookie minicamp to try out as well. So Bortles isn't going to be the only quarterback that is in the room, but there is, there. So I just don't think this is a sign that they don't trust him. Of course, if you didn't trust him, you wouldn't have traded up to select him, right? But so I think they trust him. I think they just need that veteran presence in the room to kind of mentor him through. I like giving the analogy of Trent Dilfer. Trent Dilfer was a guy who was signed to, Trent Dilfer is like Brian Hoyer as well. He's the guy who's signed as that bridge guy, and then they also have the rookie guy who Dilfer can mentor. He can show him the ways of the game, show him how to do this, show him what not to do, yada, yada, yada. And then, and then he can start in the pinch if the rookie shows lack of form or something like that. This is what I see Blake Bortles as. This is exactly what I see it as. This is that Trent Dilfer role. This is that mentor role. This is like, okay, I'm going to show you what the ways of the NFL. I'm going to show you what I did. You obviously learned under Aaron. So let me show you what I do. Maybe he can combine those mechanics and turn into a great starter. But this was not a signing of trust. This is a signing of veteran depth.
Absolutely. All right, moving on. We have Tim Tebow, and our Zoom is going to end in 8 minutes. So we will move breaking down the NFL schedule to next week. But Tim Tebow signed by Urban Meyer to the Jags to play tight end. This just seems like another personal favor. I don't like it for Urban Meyer. I think he missed he's been handing out personal favors all offseason. Chris Doyle from Iowa, former head coach, was fired because the players claimed he discriminated against them. This is just a nightmare scenario for Urban Meyer. And I think he's just using this NFL job. It's not really a sign that I think he cares, honestly. I think he's just handing out jobs to all his buddies from college, and it's not looking good for Urban to start early. And hopefully he doesn't waste Lawrence's career. All right. 60-second rants.
No mock?
No mock. We do not have time. Sorry.
Okay.
But Marco, we'll start with you.
Sergio Aguero will be leaving the new world champions, Manchester City. So obviously he will be leaving on top. So congratulations to the entire Manchester City team for winning the championship this year. Obviously he is known for that legendary goal back at the end of the season back a long time ago, where Italian legend Mario Balotelli, gotta love it, Italian legend Mario Balotelli passed to Sergio Aguero and gave birth to one of the best soccer calls in Martin Tyler's history. Balotelli, Aguero, and put Aguero in the history books. They won against QPR, and it was probably one of the best moments in Premier League history of the past decade. So I don't know where Sergio Aguero is going to go, hopefully to Stamford Bridge. But other than that, congratulations to Sergio Aguero and the rest of the Man City team. He retires on top, or he actually leaves on top.
Absolutely. Thank you, Marco. Armand, kicking it out to you.
Yeah, I just wanted to give a quick shout out to whoever made the schedules for the NFL. I think it was an amazing job of what they did in terms of Sunday night and Monday night primetime games. And I think this is the year that the 49ers need to put the nail in the coffin and say who the best team in the NFC West is. And it's clearly us, I believe. I think that this year is the downfall of the Seattle Seahawks. I think in this year, you need to go 13-4, show the NFC who the big dogs are in the conference. I see this year as nothing more than the Niners being the favorites in the NFC. I don't see one big contender in the NFC to try and match up with us. So I think you steamroll the division, you win the division in week 15 and call off this year and go into the playoffs and beat the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. And the quest for 6 finally is over.
You're crazy, man, but we love to hear it. We love to hear it. All right, Steve, you're up, buddy.
Okay, so yeah, I have a big problem with what's happening in baseball right now. The collective batting average among all 30 teams this season is 234. And it is looking like it's going to be one of baseball's worst offensive years, despite the big home run totals that we've seen for the past 10 years. I have a big problem with this. As much as I love pitching, okay, I love pitching. I love watching pitching. I love that we've had 4 no-hitters this year. I love it. Okay. However, offense, whether you like it or not, is baseball's biggest selling point to the public. Okay. And when you have no offense, when the ball's not put in play, it's a problem. And I already know the Major League Baseball Rules Committee is going to try and figure this out when you don't need to do anything. Okay. This is all the mindset of hitting now, is to put the ball in the air. Okay. That's the mindset. I hope Major League Baseball doesn't turn their league, which has been great for hundreds of years, into the Atlantic League.
Great stuff, Steve. All right, Alvin.
Russell Westbrook became a new triple-double king in the NBA history. He made 182 triple-double in 13 seasons since 2008. At the age of 32, made this achievement. I think that's incredible. Oscar Robertson spent 40 seasons to finish 181 triple-double. In the past 44 years, Westbrook made an average triple-double in every season. I think that's incredible. You might think, oh, because his teammate gave him opportunity to get rebound, that's why he made triple-double in average since 2018. But what about 2019, 2020, and 2021 this year? LeBron started his career since 2003, has only made 99 triple-double in his career. He's been playing 70 seasons in the NBA. So Westbrook, I think, made a franchise history. That's remarkable. Although, he's not really stable on 3 points on offense, but that's history. I think, he's amazing.
Yeah, we're definitely a podcast that respects Russell Westbrook.
Hopefully he gets a championship soon.
I don't think it'll ever happen, but shout out Russell Westbrook. All right. Today I'm talking about my favorite fraud in sports, the National College Athletic Association, the NCAA. They found another way to screw over college athletes this week with the NCAA women's golf tournament being canceled. The committee representative Brad Hurlbut, already a terrible name, already hate the guy before he's even said a word, announced that from the LSU steps, that the playing course was playable, but not playable at a championship level, robbing these women of their ability to play golf in a year that they were robbed of by the pandemic. This is ridiculous. This is the NCAA flexing their muscle when they don't need to. Once again, they did it, and the women's tournament, and it is ridiculous how poorly they treat their female athletes. And it's clear that they only care about money. They only care about their tax breaks. And the NCAA needs to go. And I am so sick of these guys just coming in here and being old white dudes and thinking they can just own college athletes. And it's ridiculous. And I hate it. And the NCAA needs to go. And that is our show. Thank you for tuning in. And we will see you next week to break down the NFL schedule, break down the NBA playoffs. And I'm heated. See you guys.